So, Ananya,
Yes.
Gehraiyaan is a film about flawed human beings and complex emotions. So, in what way were you able to identify and relate with the grayness of the characters and sentiments explored within the film?
So, tough question to start with.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
Honestly, I think what attracted me about attracted me to the film was the grayness, because I feel like in real life we live in the gray. In real life there is no good, bad. This film is a complex modern relationship drama, and it's about four people who are kind of put in a tough situation, and they have to make even tougher choices when they are put into such situations. And that's how life is. To what extent can you go? You don't know until you're put in that situation. You might not even know that you would react like that if you were in a situation like that. And honestly, speaking about relatability towards the characters, and especially Tia and the kind of emotional arc that she was going through, I can't say that I've been through exactly what she's been through, because I'm still very young, and I have had my fair share of heartbreaks in that way, but not to the extent that she's gone through it, and not at that scale as well. But I think I felt all the feelings she's felt, maybe at a little superficial level. And I think with Gehraiyaan, I had to kind of go in and explore those feelings even more deeply.
So, I guess because you haven't experienced obviously betrayal or deception to the level that Tia seems to go through.
Yeah,
Me too, same.
all of
the
us.
snake, the snake emojis were invented for a reason, and that
Yeah.
was the reason,
And the
right?
rats.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that you haven't like experienced it to that full level, I guess you must have been a lot more at the mercy of the script and obviously a director like Shakun Batra, right, to help you bring out those emotions. So what would you say was that reference point other than obviously the text at hand?
Honestly speaking, it was just a lot of conversations with Shakun that helped me kind of understand, because I feel like I have a lot of ideas and I think a lot of things. When I was younger, my dad used to call me Windows, because my eyes were always big and open, and I would always observe people. And I also have this habit of people watching. So, even if I'm going in a car and I look at people in another car, I'd love to imagine what relationship they share, what they fought about today, what they ate today. So I love doing that. That's like a hobby. So I have a lot of thoughts, but Shakun kind of helped me streamline it. And put it down to exactly what relates to Tia in that way. So, as you said, I've probably not had that experience that much already, but I think just by doing this film, I've just grown as a human being, leaps and bounds. I've learned a lot about life. I've learned a lot about how people react in situations. I've learned a lot about how I feel about relationships. I didn't know that I could be so non-judgmental about relationships, because that's how the film is. It's not taking a stand on what's right and what's wrong.
I'm glad you mentioned this actually because I was going to come on to that. Now, obviously, I'm quite active on Twitter and I often read a lot of the opinions that people say. And obviously, what I like about Gehraya is that it makes it very clear that we all are flawed as human beings. It says that koi, black and white nahi hai, sab kuch gray hai. And it kind of clarifies that from the onset. But obviously, whenever it comes to presenting grey characters or issues beyond societal norms, there is always the fear that the movie or the content will kind of glorify that sentiment or whatever, or that action, so to speak. But how certain were you as actors to ensure that the movie does not romanticize the idea of affairs or extramarital affairs or cheating, so to speak?
Honestly, that wasn't even a question for us, just simply in the way that the script was written.
Yeah.
There was no villain, there was no hero. Everyone had, even Tia's character in the trailer, she has that innocence, but then she also has a mysterious side. Everyone, even as humans, we all have this public persona that everyone sees, but then we also have this side to ourselves that no one sees, when we're probably at our most vulnerable. So, I feel like the film just didn't pass judgment. It wasn't glorifying anything. Usually the way we've dealt with infidelity in films before this has kind of been about finding your soulmate after marriage. But Gehraiyaan isn't about that. It's kind of about finding yourself outside of the conventional bounds of what a relationship is supposed to be like. So I think simply because all the characters were flawed, not just the ones directly taking part in the affair, kind of made it messier and made it how real life is and how humans actually are. And I think that's refreshing to see on screen.
And it's really interesting because Shakun has set up this sort of world actually from his first film. If you think about it, this dysfunctional
Yeah,
relationships,
yeah, yeah.
sort of modern take on Indian sort of Indians and how they deal with these dysfunctionality, and of course sentimentality as well. That whole sibling rivalry that we kind of get a glimpse of as well in Gehraiyaan too. But I think for me, what I took away from the trailer, it also seems to be about dealing with one's mental health.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I genuinely found. And like I mentioned, nowadays people have become so ruthless on social media. It's become so rare to see a good, human being and good stuff on social media nowadays. So I guess, using Gehraya as a link as well in terms of dealing with one's mental health, what gives you strength to deal with, social media hate and trolling? Because you've been quite vocal about it, and I'm really glad you have been.
Honestly, I think it involves snapping out of it and kind of distancing myself from a situation that's not making me happy. And you could link that to Gehraiyaan as well, because sometimes you make a choice because you're not happy in a situation anymore, and that's fine. So I think it's about having the courage and bravery to do that. Something isn't serving you anymore, if something isn't making you happy anymore, you kind of have to snap out of it, because in that moment it feels like that's the entire world and this is all that the world is. But you're wrong. There's so much more out there to go and explore and learn. So yeah, if I had to link it to Gehraiyaan, I would probably say that.
Absolutely. And obviously professional, and I think again, criticism is one thing that definitely Gehnaya seems to talk about as well. Again, from how the world views relationships and how world views you as a person. And I guess professional criticism in life is never easy to deal with, and it's never easy to digest. How do you take it positively in your life too?
I think I learned to filter out what's constructive and what isn't. I would be lying if I said that I don't get affected at all and it doesn't hurt me. Of course it does. Of course I
Exactly.
have those days when I'm angry or sad about a stupid comment that I read online, which is from a nameless, faceless person. It doesn't matter, but it does. In the moment, you think it does matter. But I think it's just about kind of distancing yourself from that situation. I think it's okay to feel what you're feeling. I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves that we have to be happy all the time. We have to be positive all of the time. But I think life is about experiencing a range of emotions. And I think sometimes we just need to let ourselves be and not put so much pressure on ourselves that we have to be strong. We have to deal with it with a smile on our face. I feel like sometimes we have
Yes.
to let it out, and that's also an experience in a way.
And I think that's also kudos goes to be actors like you and of course Deepika Padukone, who have been so vocal on mental health and raising awareness and embracing the idea that it's okay to be vulnerable. And I think that is something which is so important. And in fact, speaking of Deepika, I mean, for you both seem to have an amazing camaraderie. I think on
Yeah.
screen and off screen as well. So what would be that one? I mean, so to create that sort of bond, what would you say was that sort of process that you went through in order to make sure that this whole cousin relationship comes across as very tight knit and quite organic?
I think it was the fact that we had so many workshops, from the get go. We were kind of all in Goa for 2 months shooting the film. And they really emphasized on the fact that we have intimacy workshops together. We have, and not just Deepika and Sid, all four of us together, and sometimes even Shakun included. Like we would have yoga in the morning and then acting classes, and we'd have intimacy workshops through the day. So I think even though we kind of do have a natural chemistry, because I think we both are people. I would like to believe that about myself, but I know that about her, is that she's extremely empathetic. So she picks up on people's moods and she picks up on people's feelings through the day. So I think we allow each other space and we don't force friendships. I don't think Deepika and I ever had to force a relationship or force a friendship. And I think that's what made it what it is now, because we never tried to make it or put in too much effort or kind of fake something from the start. Everything that happened organically.
Yes, and I think what I also like about Gehraiyaan is the fact that the intimate scenes are done under, it's done in a way which is obviously under professional
Yeah,
guidance.
yeah.
And I think it's really great because it obviously ethically, it really does satisfy that criteria as well of filmmaking.
No, of
How do you
course.
think going forward, this will be a great beacon of change in terms of when we see sex or when we see any type of nudity on screen or intimate scenes? How do you think this will be a positive way forward?
I hope so, because I feel like in so many films growing up, sex would be shown as two flowers kind of going towards each other. I don't know why it's considered such a taboo subject. I think sex
Yeah.
education also needs to be a part of syllabus in school. I wish when I was in school that they had a separate section for sex education. It's really important that the youth is aware, because you can be in really scary and uncomfortable situations if you're not aware. And I feel simply for us as well, the fact that we had an intimacy director and an intimacy coach and an intimacy coordinator, really safeguards us as actors. Honestly, I feel like even, sometimes as actors we're not even asked if we're okay with doing something. Intimacy should be treated the way that dance is treated or action rehearsals are done. Like, you have to rehearse for something. It's like a part of a scene. And I feel like consent is so important with that. And that's something that we learned with intimacy, with our intimacy director, that you have to discuss with your co-actor before the scene what is okay and what's not okay. Sid and I had to constantly be like, is it okay if I touch you here? Is it okay if I put my hand here? That's how it's supposed to be. And that really helped us actually be even more free with each other. Because once you know what the boundaries are, then within those boundaries, you can explore anything in that way. And I also learned that intimacy is not just about sex, and it's not just about, physical intimacy. There's a lot of emotional intimacy also, just looking at each other or just a hand on the shoulder. And that way there's intimacy between Deepika and my character, Gehraiyaan and my character, then everyone within each other. So that it's really important, and I really hope that our film has inspired other films to take on intimacy directors and coaches.
Definitely. Well, on that note, we've run out of time, Ananya, but thank you so much for joining me on
Thank
Film Shilmy. It
you.
was a long wish to interview you, and I'm really glad it happened
I'm
for
so
Gehraiyaan.
happy to.
And I can't wait to watch the film.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Ananya. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.